A very lovely morning, and of course a very wonderful Wednesday, the 3rd of July 2024. Good morning and most welcome to the Leadership Wednesday show. It is on Wednesday, and of course it is Matters Leadership. As we always say, we have a role, we have a contribution, we have a part to play in as far as ensuring that we better our leadership in the country is concerned. And that is why we'll always be with you on a day like this to be in a position to talk matters leadership, matters governance, and also try to find out what are some of the issues that needs to be put into place, what are some of the measures that need to be put into place to ensure that we better our leadership. We are trusting that you are having a lovely day and most welcome. My name is Mangi Chomola, and of course I am with my colleague Paul Kagi. It's good to see you. A very good morning to you, Kagi.
Yes, once again, good morning and welcome to our Leadership Wednesday. We are here to be able to talk about what is happening within our nation. Once again, Paul Kagi, my name. Welcome about.
Absolutely. And our topic for today is youth and leadership. That is the topic that we want to discuss today, youth and leadership. We are looking at this very important group in the society, in our country, and of course looking at it in relation to matters leadership in the country. How can the youth be included? How can they be incorporated in matters leadership in the country? Why are they important part, or why are they an integral part to ensure that the leadership of the country is taken care of and is also effected the way it is supposed? So that is actually going to be our topic of conversation, and we have a question that we are also putting out for you. What do you think needs to be done, or how do you think the youth can be effectively incorporated in different areas of leadership in the country? That is a question. What do you think, or how do you think the youth can be effectively incorporated in different areas of leadership in the country? Maybe in different institutions, maybe in different companies, or maybe even in our counties, and of course even in the country. You can share with us your thoughts. You can share with us your opinions or your perspectives on 23814. That is for our shortcut platform, and of course also on our social media handles, Facebook MBCI TV, and YouTube, that is MBCI TV official. You can feel free to drop a comment or two. We'll be glad to also see what are some of your responses, what are some of your opinions on our on this particular discussion. Of course, later on we shall also be joined by we also have invited a guest that will also help us get into this particular conversation, and is a governance analyst, that is Engineer Victor Ngatia. Will be here in a short while to also help us get to shape this very interesting conversation that we are going to have today. You can also watch out for the other segments that we also have prepared for you in the show. We have the prominent faces, we have the Know Your Constituency, and the Leadership Quote. It's a full entry and you're most welcome. But of course, before we get into that, Kagi, we can have a look at some of the other items that of course are making headlines this morning and across this 1 week.
Yes, thank you, Mangicho. And of course, when we're beginning the Leadership Wednesday, we look at what is happening within our country, in our dailies. And today we want to see what is happening for the last maybe 3 days in our dailies. And one of the issues that is coming up today is on what followed yesterday regarding to the demonstrations that were rocked in the country between in the morning and the evening. And yesterday things were very different because those people who went on the ground are different as compared to what happened last week. And everybody was complaining that these are not the Gen Zs, and these are what you call the goons or criminals on our roads, because they were really doing a lot of mess, looting, throwing stones, destroying everything. Even if you could look beyond even their ages, you could easily tell these are not Gen Zs. They are people who have really pocketed some years. And therefore, that is what is making headlines in most of our papers today. And something is coming up. The government, through the DCI, are really looking into who is behind what is happening, especially by yesterday. And what is being reported here is that there's a one question here. Are there sponsors for what happened yesterday? And it is being reported that detectives have listed 6 prominent politicians, 2 NGOs and business person as being behind the wave of violent demonstrators across the country. And they are going to follow up on these guys to even verify more whether they are being involved in what happened yesterday. But by today, the businesses are back to normal. And we believe along the week, because the president had hinted that between tomorrow and Friday, he is going to hold an ex-meeting or the space meeting between the young generation, or the youth for that matter, and the president, whether it is going to cool down the agitations of the young generation on the way the government is operating. But it's good to mention that there is need to have a talk between the young generation and also with the political leadership to be able to see where should we correct, because at the end of the day, whether it is who or who, there must be done some corrections, and also to be able to satisfy the generation. So we are hoping by the end of this week, there's going to be a much development on what is happening, and much so to be able to satisfy the souls of the young people in the country.
Absolutely, Kagi, I totally agree with you. And of course, the events of yesterday were quite unfortunate. What began as what we can actually term as peaceful protest turned very ugly and very, very chaotic. And apparently, it's very, very clear that there are those who took advantage of the peaceful protest to unleash terror in some of the major cities across the country. I think that is not what was initially intended, even by those who maybe were actually coming out to agitate for some of the reforms, and also the removal of the finance bill, that is 2024. Because what we saw yesterday, Kagi, and even a few days last week, is totally unwarranted, because these are basically goons that were in the streets and actually just unleashing terror, burning property, causing injuries. And I think that doesn't really have anything to do with what maybe we can actually identify as a main objective, as a main purpose for why the peaceful protesters were actually coming out. And I think it's important, it is imperative that action be taken at the earliest time possible to ensure that those who are culpable and the culprits of those heinous acts are actually brought into book. They are actually held accountable. Because, Kagi, you can just imagine all those property that were destroyed, the injuries that took place. It just cannot be life as usual. So it's important that as a nation we all come to that realization that now what has been happening and what was witnessed yesterday, and if there may be even future plans, it's important for us as a country to be in a position to know that those who are now doing it, they have a totally different agenda from the one that was previously conceived.
Yes, and one of the items that make these young people to be agitated is the issue of the tax. And this was happening, and they managed to be able to corner the president to withdraw the finance bill 2024. Something interesting happened yesterday. There was a report that there is a plan to be able to hike the salaries for the members of parliament, the senators, and the governors, and all those people in that class, and even CSs. And one of the things they were pushing for is the misuse of public resources or extravagancy within the government. And they feel that we need to manage our resources. One of the things they are not happy with is the issue of politicians going to the churches and to do some harambees, and they were questioning, where are you getting this money from? And they were very open saying, you guys, you're using our taxes to go and do some harambees, which, if you could flash back Mangicho during Kibaki's era, the harambees were banned. as per the law. So what happened, and then we came back to Harambes. I don't know where we came back and started doing Harambes, but by law,
yes,
they were abolished. But as the young people are looking for ways to be able to manage our resources, and if we could have listened to the interview by the president, he is very much ready to reduce the expenditures within the government, then it is very interesting to see again, as when one hand we are talking about reducing the expenditures, the other hand we are talking about raising the packs of people who are already being paid handsomely. And therefore, I believe by the end of this week, we are going to see if this is going to be ratified, but they're supposed to receive this hike by yesterday. No, by yesterday, but one. That is on Monday. And therefore, let's wait and see whether it's going to also to get some resistance from the quarters.
Yeah, I think that news was, it came at a time that things, I think most of the people, even the nation, was not expecting that kind of an announcement, Kagi, when of course maybe the nation is really trying to come out and put a voice out there that things are not well, that it's becoming more tougher, it's becoming tougher in as far as maybe the economy or situation is actually concerned. Now for you to hear that we have some Kenyans who are also going now to benefit from salary increment, I think it's quite ironic, and we are waiting to see. I know even our guest in the studio will actually contribute on that particular point, because one wonders, because like the government, even the head of state has actually been on record as saying and actually urging Kenyans to live within their means. That is basically to show that we don't have the luxury of maybe just having some of these things that maybe most Kenyans would actually yearn for now. But when you hear now that SRC has actually now offered that salary increment to some of these government officers who are actually paid quite a lot of money, Kagi, by the standards maybe of even other economies, one wonders maybe what is really going in their minds. So I think this is actually going to raise a lot of debate, and I think Kenyans will actually continue to raise a lot of questions, and if maybe you're not careful, it could be one of the other reasons that again we'll have some of these young people actually getting back to the streets again, because it basically means that, or most people would actually argue or understand that to mean that maybe the government and those maybe who are given that particular role, those who are maybe have been tasked with the purpose and even maybe with the assignment of looking into the affairs of the country, it will basically maybe mean that they don't have the good will of the Kenyans at heart.
And maybe finally to mention is that the Treasury is experiencing a pressure to be able to have 1 billion shillings every year to be able to cater for these salaries. And the collection of our revenue is an average of 2 trillion shillings. What is in the record is that we are using 1.1 trillion shillings for the wage bill. And therefore, if we are adding 1.1 trillion on our wage bill again, then I think we could say that we are moving in the wrong direction, because this is where the bone of contention is, the way we are managing our resources.
Sure.
And we must come on the table to be able to discuss this matter.
Absolutely.
Maybe you can mention one thing, Mangicho.
Yes.
Away from politics, just to remind our parents that the Ministry of Education has really finalized plans to be able to prepare for the senior school. All right? And the senior school plans state ready for 2026. Around 1.2 million learners are waiting to join the senior school. Of course, they will be in the current high school, because by next year, 2025, we don't expect to have Form 1s in our high schools. So there's going to be a gap between those who are in Form 1 when they will be in Form 2. Next year, we don't have any Form 1s. So when these guys will be in Form 3 is when now we'll be having the senior school who are now in grade 8.
Okay.
So the government is very much prepared, according to the CS Education, to be able to cater for these children. And I believe he means what he says. We do not expect to experience the situation that we had with they are called junior high school. Yes.
GSS.
Yes. We don't have to experience the same situation where we have taken our children to a junior high school. There are no teachers in the school. There are no classes to learn. There are no facilities. It was just a total mess. And I believe they have enough time anyway. If they are ready by today, then it's a good news. They have around 1 and maybe a quarter a year to be able to prepare for this and plan it better.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yeah, of course, we know quite a lot has been happening in the education sector with all these changes that was occasioned by the competence-based curriculum.
Yeah.
And of course, we are seeing the coming to the end of some systems like 844 and what we've always maybe known as the Standard 8 and maybe the Form 4, of course, doing away with them and now introducing the other system. Just as we've put it, I think the most important thing is to see how these particular transitions are actually going to be managed, because remember we are talking about the education of our peoples, the education of our children and our students. So it's very, very important for those actually in the ministry to ensure that all the contingency measures are actually put into place, all the measures that are very, very important to ensure that they are put in place, so that at the end of the day, again, we don't see some of these students actually maybe suffering, maybe because of some actions that were not put into place. So bearing in mind that it's not very, very easy maybe for us to say that we are going to take them back again. So things like the teachers that are supposed to be there, the issue of sufficient infrastructure, I think that's something that we've always been talking about, the issue of the teachers, the JSS teachers, and those maybe who are supposed even to manage them at the other levels. Those are issues that actually needs to be put into consideration.
Yes.
Very well. I think we are still going on very well. Just as if you're just joining us, we are discussing youth and leadership. And the question that we've put out for you is, how do you think the youth in the country can be effectively incorporated in different areas of leadership? How do you think the youth in the country can be effectively incorporated in different areas of leadership in the country? Or maybe even in our counties, in our institutions, even across the society? You can feel free to share with us your perspectives, your ideas, and your contribution on 238-214 for those interested in the shortcut platform that is free of charge. And of course, you can also catch us live on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube page. For Facebook, that is MBCI TV, and for YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. As we had hinted earlier, we have a guest to help us navigate through this particular conversation, and at this particular juncture we have the pleasure to introduce him. That is Engineer Victor Ngatia. Karibu sana. A very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Bwana Mangicho, and thank you very much for having me. It's been a bit, but I'm glad to be back. We can always share the platform in discussing leadership.
Wow. Always a pleasure.
MBCI has played a big role in molding the next generation.
Sure.
The Generation Z, we are all proud that they are who they are today. And I'm sure that's part of what we're going to discuss today. How do we include them in leadership?
Wow. Thank you. Actually, it forms the basis of our main conversation, and of course we'll be getting into that. But there is that particular item, engineer, that Kagi talked about, the increase of the packs of our government officers, members of parliament and cabinet secretaries coming just at a time like this.
At a time when we are causing about.
Yes.
It shows how insensitive the leadership is today.
Okay.
That we have seen the protests happen for now, this is the third week, and immediately after yesterday's showdown, then the papers today tell us that effective yesterday, the day before yesterday, that they already got an additional pack. It's very unfortunate that when we talk about a government that does not listen, then this is a clear example of how a government fails to listen. And we've seen the country go into almost anarchy simply because we have a government that's not listening. And it's very unfortunate when I was growing up, I knew when I wanted advice, I would always go to the elderly. wazee, enda kwa mawaidha upewe na wazee.
Right.
And they would guide you well, for sure, and if you went contrary, you would always fail. And it's very unfortunate that today we have a younger generation advising the wazee. It's very unfortunate that we would have a leader who has been advised to go and vote no, going to vote yes. And you go ahead and confirm that you agree with all the issues, you will vote no. It's very unfortunate that now a young man comes and tells you, you know what, this is bad, this is wrong. And constitutionally, it is wrong. So where did the mzee stop being the mzee to actually be the one to lead the way by knowing that this was wrong? It's very unfortunate. I know we expect another showdown on this issue. We saw the wrath that had been unleashed on these members of parliament. We saw the Gen Z had something they are calling wasalimie, say hi to them. And if that already has started, why would they even be the first people to start rebuking it? Because I would expect leadership from them, having seen and understood what's happening, on the ground. People are not happy. They have caused and they have shown that dissatisfaction with this kind of move. Why would an MP be seated waiting for the park to just check into his account? I'm not seeing anybody. It's not even the opposition or the government side that is already speaking against it.
Sure.
Confirming that there is something critically wrong with the system as it is today.
Yes. Actually, what you've pointed out is that we've always seen when it is a matter that affects both the two divides, they tend to agree. Only when maybe now it is an issue that they think
one side is benefiting, so the other one causes.
Exactly, But that is well put, engineer, and we are really hoping that things are going to be corrected at the very early stage. So let's get into this very, very important discussion for today, engineer. And I know, of course, just like you've said, we know the youth is a very, very integral part, and we know as a country, as a nation, we enjoy a fairly large number of the youth. They are counting, I think, 75 or 80%. 75%. How critical is this for a nation like Kenya?
It has always been very critical. And I think even when we started campaigning a long time ago, we would say the youth have the numbers. But somehow that does not reflect in the ballot. And so no matter how critical it gets today, if it does not reflect in the ballot, then it becomes useless. Vote. And maybe this is where I should actually tell the youth, I am in love with the noise you're making. I am in love with the protest. I am in love with how effective you have been. I am in love with the fact that you have put the president's ear on the ground. Now he's listening. But you will not be effective if you fail to register as a voter. Because a time will come when we shall require you to make a decision on who should lead you. Some time back, I remember I was involved in registering a political party. And I remember one of the things I had thought would be very beneficial to this country was to hand over leadership to the younger generation. And I had, with the team that we were in that party, we had thought that the youth should take over all the MCA's slots. And you see, at that point, maybe I was too much ahead of time, And the reason is, I'm seeing a scenario where we have the first generation, ruling or leading the second generation. They extend it to the third generation, and now they're extending it to the fourth generation. And even if we want to extend it to the seventh and the eighth, there comes a time that there must be handover. And this in itself is what I was seeing. We must hand over. Maybe I can give you another scenario. The British came to this country in 1900. And over a period of time, to 1959-60, they had to hand over. Because they had taken a number of generations. And now the generation that was going to resist, and the Mau Mau was formed. And in 1963, or 60 years later, they had to hand over. So 1963, this generation took over. 60 years later, in 2024, we have another form of Mau Mau that comes up and rebels, telling this generation that, time is up. Your policies are not working with us. because they've now become the koloni mamboleo.
Okay.
They have now become the latest or the current colonizers of this generation. So time is up for them. But they won't listen until we see scenes like we saw yesterday on the roads, which is very unfortunate that we have to have people die. I mean, I'm seeing a woman on TV crying over a son that died in this. And I'm seeing a woman back in 1940 who blessed the son to go to the forest as a Mau and died and never returned. It's the same scenario. I don't know if you see what I see, but it's the same scenario where we have 39 confirmed dead today fighting to liberate this country. I mean, it's that time. It's a transition. It's time to move. When you see that you have demands from a generation that says, you must go. I mean, it's just a confirmation that they are fed up. Either you're not listening, or you're basically so fixated with the old system on policies that the new has lost its meaning. We're in the new setup today. Look at the technology levels. Look at the education levels. I mean, we cannot even compare this with 1963. We are looking at people who are so brave enough that they would stand and tell the police on their face. Back in our days, we wouldn't dare. We would see a horse and the whole village will take off. It's only one horse.
Sure. And
so those are things that I thought if we can include in our thinking would help us to discuss.
Very good. And I think you brought a very good point that I would want you also to pick up even as Kagi comes in, looking at now these levels of generations and what it means for the generation that we have now, maybe as compared to the previous ones, as far as the youth is concerned, and how basically there are issues therefore needs to be put into consideration. That is what we are discussing on the Leadership Wednesday show. We are coming back with still much more on the second round. Stay tuned.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Red lorry, yellow lorry. Rudia mara tatu.
Shut up, everybody. Listen. Let your lorry. Let your lorry.
S-E-C-I-S-I-O-N. Nimeambulia patupu. Utamwambia je kwa kizungu?
I have a brilliant tooth. I have a brilliant tooth. I have a brilliant tooth.
Sahani?
Bakuli.
Eh?
Sahani ya bakuli.
Umesema nini kwa? Sahani?
Sufuria. Sufuria.
Parallelogram, hebu jaribu.
Parallelogram. 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 Parallelogram.
Next on.
I want to help you. Niambie ukweli. Pastor. Nimeona mnaingia mahali kachochoro hivi, mahali kuna giza. Na ukiongea ukweli itakusaidia siku ya leo.
Umeona nikiwa peke yangu hapa na chief.
Yeye alisema aliona mazinga umbwe.
Hiyo ni kweli aliona mazinga umbwe, lakini sio ni kani mazinga umbwe aliona. Si mazinga umbwe aliona.
Chief anaonekana kuna mambo unajua.
Ningeomba unisaidie na dawa za kumaliza kukasirika, kwa sababu kuzuia kukasirika, kwa sababu ile tunaye hapa ya watu wa siasa.
Okay, dawa za zile zenye tunaweza kupea.
Hebu toka hapo kwanza, usijaribu kuguza gari yangu wewe.
Sijaguza.
Unaona venye wewe ni mchafu?
Mimi si mchafu.
Nisaidie.
Na tukienda huko tulemewe na mazoezi.
Hayo wapi? Sasa unaona wewe ndio lazima tutalemewa jioni mchele.
Sasa tutafanya aje?
Nataka pesa yangu.
Sasa Mama Ken,
Mimi sitaki kujua na usiniambie.
naomba tu unipe muda.
Muda mgani?
Nitakutafutia pesa.
Sitaki. Sasa leo ninataka pesa yangu.
Hiyo pesa utatoa kidogo tu. Hakuna hiyo pesa yangu utatoa. Kidogo tu. Kidogo saa ngapi? Hii kiatu ninaenda naye. Sitaki kujua. Pesa umekaa nazo wiki moja, umekaa na pesa yangu na unipi.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back, and we are still very, very much glad to have you on the Leadership Wednesday show. Of course, you are just on time for this very, very interesting discussion and candid discussion. Of course, giving or actually putting our focus on matters youth and leadership. They are accounting for 75% of our population in the country, and therefore, this is not a group that you want to ignore or you want maybe to take for granted. And that is why we want to find out what is it that needs to be done to ensure that they are given the weight that they deserve, they are given the consideration that they deserve. And of course, we have a guest, that is Engineer Victor Ngaria, that is a governance analyst, helping us into shaping this discussion that we are having today. Also roping you in, we've put out a question for you. You can feel free to continue giving us your remarks and also your opinions. 23814 on the short code platform. That is, you can also catch us live on our Facebook page, MBCI TV, and YouTube, MBCI TV Official. How do you think the youth can be effectively incorporated in different areas of leadership in the country? How do you think the youth can be effectively incorporated in different areas of leadership in the country? As we continue, we'll be glad to also see how you respond to this subject today. Karibuni tena, and of course, Engineer, yes, just before I hand over to Kagi, you've brought out an area that I think is very, very important even for us to escalate on. When you're looking at how, therefore, we've been having these generational changes as far as maybe the youth are concerned in the country. Of course, now the topic in the town is the Gen Z. Gen Z. If you're to look at it maybe compared maybe to the issues that maybe the youth were also fighting for during the multi-party democracy and the era also maybe of independence, fighting for independence, maybe the 1960s. What do you think are some of the issues that maybe have been changing over this period of time?
Well, I think the world is dynamic and change is constant.
Right.
That's maybe what I need to put across. Change is constant. Things are changing. And it doesn't matter what institution, even a church, there comes a time that you don't have to do, there's nothing you can do but change, according to what the world is becoming. Even in parenthood, whether schools or anything, change is constant. And as you've mentioned, there came a time that we needed independence. And at that time, the fight that was in the whole country was against Mbebero. And we wanted him out so that we get independence.
Okay.
So over time, that became, and I think in 1978 we lost the former president, and then President Moy took over, the late President Moy. And over time again, we had challenges with his leadership. And again, we had that aspect of, we had this solid party, because we started with, I think, 3 parties at point of independence. Then it was solidified to 1 party. And then over time, the party became, what do you call it? Rogue, if I would call it. And the people felt this single party is messing this country. And now at that point, now we had that generation of that time trying to instigate now for multi-party.
Wow.
And it was a mess. If you remember, Kenyatta Avenue was similar with what we saw yesterday. We had people, we had Raila, we had Jaramogi, we had Akina Mwite, and all of them on the roads. And that age, if you check how old they were, it is that particular aspect of the generation. They were there.
At that time, they were called Young Turks.
Yes, no, Young Turks came a bit later. But initially, when they were pushing for it, they were pushing because they wanted change that would actually help the requirement of that period. They wanted multi-party, so they would be able to bring equality, from the difference that had been drawn against the rich and the poor.
Right.
And at that moment, Moi had no choice. And it's just like, even now, this current government should not think that they have a choice. They don't have a choice. I mean, it is time for change. So that time, multi-party came in. Moi was in pains to sign it. But he had to. So we brought in multi-party, and over time we saw what multi-party brought. It got us to a point of a new constitution. And in 2008, 2010, the next push was a new constitution, so that we wanted to leverage against what the old constitution had made of Moi. So we wanted to bring a constitution that will actually make it equal for us. That is when we promulgated the new constitution in 2010. Now, this constitution was fought for. It was not easy. I mean, it had to come. After that, we brought in President Kibaki. You remember the overwhelming support. The time had come that regardless of the fact that there were other people who were vying against Moi, all we wanted is to see Moi out. The whole country had decided. If you remember the looks of Uhuru Park and how packed it was, yote yawezekana bila Moi. That time had come.
I remember in 2002 they had reported that Kenya was regarded as the most optimistic country.
You get, because everybody had agreed with Kibaki. And having pushed for that change, Kibaki brought the change we wanted in this country. We saw roads being built. We saw cabinet numbers shrink. We saw effective management of our economy. We saw almost a double-digit growth, because the time had come for us to get the change. We pushed, got the change, and we realized what we wanted.
Wow.
Now, we are here today. The Gen Z, which is the generation that is current, is very clear. And you notice our ways of trying to demand for change was very different with what the Gen Z is doing today. And that's why today I'm actually supporting them fully behind them. I am fully behind them. Why? Because they have a different way of engaging. And you see, even the president tells them, I want you to come and let's have a sitting. You get? But you see, they're shying away and saying, no, all we want are simple things delivered.
Simple as that.
In fact, when you listen to the president the other day speak, he's already accepting a number of demands.
And actually, that is the question, engineer, because people are asking, so who is this 21st century youth, popularly known as the Gen Z, that you're dealing with?
The Gen Z,
if you were to describe them.
I would call them, these are kids who have grown to be adults, born from 1997, I think up to the year 2009, if I'm not wrong. And you see, if you are in 1997, born then, today you're what age? 1997, 2000...
around 22.
Around 22. You see, you're an adult. You're already an adult. And you can now agitate like Mau Mau's. The Mau Mau went to the forest at the age of 20. And they were sleeping hungry. Waiting to you go somewhere and dig, thinking somebody could have buried food there, and that's how they were getting their food. It's the same thing. So the current Gen Z is fully in their right place and space. So it's only us to now listen and know what they want. And it's going to happen. There's no choice. We've gone through the stages, and it's only good that the government listens, because if they don't, it's only bound to get murky and worse and bad, and they will not stop at it. I mean, these are the kids that you see who will stand up. In our time, when a tear gas was thrown, we would all take off, yes? We've seen the generation has become emboldened over time.
So you're talking about them being very well informed?
Very well informed.
They're aware of their rights?
Critically confident of what they're asking for. Because when they tell you we're coming to parliament, for example, and they come, and you shoot in the air, they don't go. They sit down, and they come. That is somebody who knows you have no right to take my life. You have no right to stop me demanding what I want. Unlike us, Farasi ingekuja, we take off. And the riot is called off, the protest is called off. So we're not dealing with the old anymore. We're not dealing with the Raila riots that we would actually call them. We are not calling with that kind of protest, you know. We are dealing with a generation that, number one, are educated. These people know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
When you tell them about, you see, before we would say, Pitisha Katiba, we were not reading Katiba. Our generation, Baba Mesoma, Ipite. You get?
Yeah.
But this generation is engaging and telling you, no, there is this thing you put in here that is not correct. Please explain. You are odds to explain. So it tells you he's ahead of you. You know? When you talk about finances, he's telling you, we don't want CASs. You're already thinking how you bring in CAS. But they're telling you, you can't bring CAS because we don't have that money. Because for you to get that money, you want to tax me. Don't tax me because we don't need CAS. And you see, when a Gen Z tells you we don't need CAS, he's not against the Constitution. He's actually telling you to implement the Constitution.
So are we saying that at the moment, when you're talking about issues governance and issues leadership, it's very, very close to their hearts? Because this is also, it brings some other thoughts, because there are those who have also criticized them, maybe for not taking part, like what you had mentioned. Sometimes when you get into voting, you see maybe that the number of them that actually vote is very small. And therefore maybe people think that they don't care as far as leadership is concerned.
Agreed, and I will tell you, what you're saying is absolutely correct. Back in the day, we would tell the youth that, you know, the leadership would bring change. And at some point they said they will not vote. They will remember. The young said they won't vote.
Yes.
But now they've realized we didn't vote these people in. So they are coming in and they are doing things that are harassing or oppressing us. So they are now, it's an uprising. They're saying, you know what, we now have the power to change things. And we are not going to wait. We will push for the change now. For them having come out and stopped the finance bill, let me not cheat you, it is not a joke.
Yeah.
It is such an achievement for them. That's a certificate for them. You know, we have actually stopped this. In Kenya, stopping a finance bill is not a joke.
I heard them saying that...
and maybe to finish on your point, it is now that they've taken it up and they've gotten the interest of who will be their leader.
Wow.
If you listen to them, they've already shared posters of who they want to be the president. For us, we would not. For us, it's a secret. So we want you, but we'll not tell you who we want. They've already declared this is the kind of person we want. So you're dealing with the different mental capacity.
Yes.
That they are so sure of what they want and the kind of leadership they want. So if you want to survive, you better start to emulate or become like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. By the way you're speaking is that every time when you have young people who are vibrant, depending on the situation, they have a very big role in transforming the country and the situation. But one thing I can observe from here, from the young generation, because they have a power to be able to change the leadership, there's a power to be able to give the country what we require for them, even for the generation ahead of them, even those who are coming behind.
Wisdom.
One of the things that has been a headache for our nation is the issue of tribalism. And what we call the regional parties, you know. But by the way these guys are working out, is as if they want to bring a solution to a long-lasting headache of our nation, the issue of tribalism. For example, in their platform, where they are meeting, they're discussing their issues, they are not talking about their tribes.
Not at all.
They are not talking about where they come from. Even if they come from certain regions, it is not a bother to them. What they want is just a common goal. And therefore, I feel that these guys are going to give a solution to what we have been going through, the issue of tribalism, and also the issue of the tribal political parties. There's some guys who are coming up and trying to position themselves as their spokesperson. And they are hardly hit back by this young generation. No, we don't want any leadership here. Because they know what goes along when you become a leader of a certain group. They have understood our culture. You are being bought, you are being convinced, you know, all those things. And therefore, I don't know whether there is a room of retracting back from this journey they have taken, especially in the line of trying to end tribalism in Kenya. Lastly, there's one thing they are coming up with, which I feel it is very okay. Slowly, our churches and pulpits, they were sliding slowly in the hands of politicians. And our pulpits were slowly being turned to become a political arena, which was a very, very unfortunate way. But something which is shocking me is the way they came up with a formula to be able to stop politicians from using the pulpit to play politics. What are you seeing ahead?
It's what I'm telling you about. It's that time of change that at times you would even look at the church leadership. What did they lose to understand that this is the house of God? I mean, why does it take a younger person who has no calling to see that? I don't know if you see what I'm talking about. So it is God manifesting himself in the Gen Z. Because there is no way this young person would come and advise everybody correct. I mean, I'm advising the pastors. I'm telling them, you know what? Haya ni madhabahu. Hatuhitaji siasa. Do you need to be told? No, you don't. We don't need a young person really to come and tell a president that you should stop this. And if you look at the Constitution, that is what it exactly says. Don't we have advisors to the president? No, I'm just trying to show you that it is time for change. Because if you don't see it, then change will change you. You know, if you look at, we saw them become violent. The youth at some point became violent, and they were now talking of how Salimia, let's say hi to this guy. This is his number, and they could get all your details, your house, your wife, your kids. They have all that data, and they can tell your kid goes to this school and stuff like that. You know, and when they say to Salimia, these are kids who are ready to force you to listen to them. For us, we would say Ngoja 2027. Then they're not saying that. You will listen to us now.
Today, now.
You will listen to us now. It's very unfortunate. I saw some scenes that got violent, and some members of parliament were actually hit, and some houses were even burnt. Very unfortunate. I don't know what to call it. Inside, there's something that tells me we must get these members of parliament to listen. Because at some point, for sure, they're not listening. How do you get somebody to listen? That reminds me of my father when I was young. And anytime he would tell me something to do and I would fail to do, he would beat me up. He would take a kid and smack me, you know. This is what I'm saying, do this. And you would quickly do. So it's a similar thing, because that's how they were brought up. If they didn't do what they were supposed to do, they were beaten.
They were beaten, sure.
So if I have elected you, you have failed to do as I've told you, what should I do? We've seen what the system has done of the courts. We can have criminals elected in parliament. So if I take you to court, are you saying that I'll still get justice? So the Gen Z is asking very pertinent questions. And now they are going out of the way to correct it by force. Because today, the members of parliament are not even giving sirens on the road. They are now following the traffic. Today, everyone is hiding so that they don't get identified as a member of parliament. Why? Because they're scared of the wrath that they're going to get from these people. But why would you get the wrath if you listened to them? Today, they would not be on the roads if these people had voted no. There would be no chaos in this country. But they didn't listen. They went and did control.
I'm actually very, just to pick up from where Kage left, the issue of voting along ethnic lines. Because this has been a major cancer engineer in the country. What do you think has happened that maybe abruptly has made a youth in Rift Valley to be or to think the same way maybe a youth in Nyanza or even maybe a youth in Central can actually think?
My thinking quickly, I would just think it's godly. I think it's just God manifesting himself. Because really, we have known Luo land to always fight the other tribes. I'm sure there would be an issue with the Luo and Kalenjins now. We have known Kikuyus and Kalenjins to always have issues. We have known, if you go to this side, Mombasa would have an issue with, all those conflicts have been there on tribal lines. And they were drawn very well by these leaders. And this is what I'm saying.
It was intentional.
It was intentional, because you'll see, even yesterday, I think we saw some clip, a flyer of what is happening in Uasin Gishu, of some leader who's trying to push them to get some oath, I don't know what, that they will protect. And you see, that is violence. So it's violence drawn on tribal lines, because it's a particular community taking an oath against who? those question marks are there, and they will say that the other people are the ones messing our town. But also I'm telling you it's godly, because God comes and makes sure that the people who bring chaos in Uasin Gishu and Kericho, like they're calling them chaos, it's not tribes, it's their sons and daughters. You know? So how do you pick a tribe? You can't. If you go to Kericho, the population there is very much known what community is there. And they are the young people and the Gen Z of that community that is now rising and saying, you know what, you guys are doing wrong. If you go to Mandera, there is also an uprising there. We don't have a community that has hibernated to Mandera to bring a tribal warfare there. No, it's the Gen Z of that time. Nairobi is where it's called Cosmo in Nakuru. And you can't say that if you saw the people who are on the road in Nakuru were particular from a particular tribe. So I think it's godly. He's manifesting himself through the Gen Z, because everybody else has become so self-centered, and it's about them. The leadership of today is about them. The leadership of today is about how they get more salary. The leadership of today is how the president can get more perks. You get? It is not about them. Them who are supposed to be taxed. They are the people who are supposed to toil. They are the people who are supposed to pay dearly through their businesses. They are the people who are supposed to sleep hungry because they didn't get any money today, while we pay these guys lavishly in office. You know? So why won't you expect an uprising?
My big question is, you know, politicians are very tactical. And I'm worried that they are going also to learn, because it's now like we are in a political war. They are going to learn on how to be able to handle these young people, survival. My concern is that are they going to toe the line from the young generation, or are they going to give in, or they are going to, along the way, they are going to win them over?
I think I already alluded to an answer to that, and I've told you it's time for change. And I've given you scenarios where we've come from independence. In fact, before independence, to a point that there was a need for change. And change is constant. It happens. Just even here, even in this company, there is time for change. And things, I mean, this studio, their time was here, so it was different. And there must be something that made you change how it looks. Why would you want to make it this beautiful? Because it's change. You know, you need to keep on attracting more. You need to be, you know, one of the best studios in Nakuru, if not in country, you know, in this country. So this change is happening, and these people better shape up or shape out.
Yeah.
You know, there is no way they are going to win the Gen Z into their mental thinking space. No, the Gen Z is fighting a good cause. And what I like about Gen Z is they are not contradicting the Constitution. If you look at their demands, you'll be amazed that this is a Gen Z asking. They are basically telling you the Constitution says this, so this is what you need to do.
Even during demonstrations, they had their own code of conduct as per the Constitution.
I mean, these are the kind of people who are so organized that they knew you would beat them. They organized for themselves a medical camp. You did. You get? So it is so well done, and you would wonder, who has this brain? But we are forgetting that Kibaki came, we saw life in this country. He introduced what we call free primary education. In fact, not just free primary, free compulsory education. So these are the kids who are now in the streets. They are well educated. They understand. You don't just tell them, they read. These are the people who take the phone, you tell them something, they Google. They confirm you're not telling the truth, you're lying. You know? And they can question you on that. Look at the journalists we have today. When they sit with whoever, the kind of questions they pose, even to the president. I mean, this is a well-informed generation. That they would put a president on check.
Absolutely.
You know, there are people who took offense. But we are now, these are the people we expect. I mean, we saw a young man fly from Kenya to America, and when the president stood to speak and was taking question, a Kenyan young man stood and asked a very serious question to do with Haiti and explained to the president. Let's look at this wisdom. So you understand it's time for change. This boy stands up and tells the president, you know what? Kenya is suffering. We have issues that we have not sorted. We have cattle rustlers that are killing and maiming people. We have not managed to deal with them since you took office. What informs you that Haiti is more important than those people that elected you? This Haiti is, I don't know, 14,000 kilometers away from Kenya. What relations do you have comparing Haiti and your own country? This is Gen Z in America. And you guys are not seeing change?
There is. One of the things that we are looking forward to is how these young people, if they are going to come out to seek positions when time comes, because we have seen them shying away from maybe standing for some positions. And they can do a lot of work and then they leave it for other people to be able to...
I don't see that happening. But remember, the politics that has been choreographed by the old generation. And they made it so expensive that any Gen Z will not have the money to even dare speak a word like I want to buy.
It's true.
You get? So the Gen Z now are not demanding for the likes of Omtata or Matiang'i or whoever they are mentioning to come so that can pay them.
Okay.
They're not looking for the money. Meaning, now they understand they can elect one of their own without them giving them money.
All the mobilization can actually be done
online, on their platform. You get? So the time is just come that you just need to see that change or you'll actually lose. That change is come, and I can tell you, if there was a snap election called like today, there's nobody in that parliament who will go back. Nobody. Because they have failed.
And that is very interesting. We are getting into a place where it is not necessarily how fat the pockets of a politician
look at
will determine.
Personally, I will confess, I have planned a Mandamano in Nakuru. I have been in the center stage of planning a Mandamano. And I can rightly say that we did not get the numbers to come out. In Nairobi, when the first protest came, I was amazed by the number of people I saw on Kenyatta Avenue and Moi Avenue in Nairobi. Confirming there was no money here. This is not induced by money.
Spontaneous.
These people came out because they knew what they wanted. And they were not coming out because they got lunch. No. Look at them walk back home. Somebody walks from Githurai. How much have you paid him? They were not paid.
Zero.
You've paid that we know there's chaos in town, but we are still walking to town. So it tells you we have gone past that with the Gen Z. So it's not about how much we shall be giving them. It is that they want the leadership in place. The leadership that will be elected, whether now or in 2027, believe you me, will listen to Gen Z.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Engineer. We want us to take a look at a particular segment, but after that, we'll talk about how do you think we need to mentor them, even as I know now the entire country focus is now on this particular generation in terms of now guiding them so that they can also maybe take up some of these very crucial roles effectively. What needs to be inculcated in them. You'll be able to share with us about that and still much more even as you continue watching this particular show. We have that particular segment that is always prepared by Kagi, Prominent Faces, and I think our director at this particular point can grant us that particular segment as we enjoy it.
Senegal, turmoil gives way to a new president. In our Prominent Faces segment, we look at the life of newly young elected president of Senegal. What a difference 3 weeks can make. That was the time it took for Bassirou Diomaye Faye to go from prison to the presidency of Senegal. The 44-year-old former tax inspector was sworn in 2 months ago after a period of political turmoil spurred by fear that outgoing President Macky Sall, who had been in power for 12 years.
Je jure de remplir fidèlement la charge de président de la République du Sénégal, d'observer comme de faire observer scrupuleusement les dispositions de la Constitution et des lois.
Faye, who was arrested in April 2023 and detained without trial on trumped-up charges of inciting insurrection, was released 10 days before the presidential ballot. A little-known figure outside his party, Faye campaigned as a stand-in for the movement's leader Osman Sonko, who in addition to being detained had been barred from running in elections. With over 54% of the vote, Faye became the first opposition candidate to win an election in the first round since Senegal obtained independence in 1960 and is the country's youngest ever president. Faye was a political unknown. Born into a modest family of farmers in the remote village of Ndianganiao, he received a master's degree of law from Dakar Sheikh Anta Diop University. Ahead of the elections, he called on all candidates to disclose their assets. In his name, he listed a home in Dakar and some land outside the capital and in his hometown. He held about $6,600 in his bank accounts. Faye's goals are matched by the formidable challenges he faces. During the campaign, he promised to tackle corruption, reduce presidential powers, reintroduce vice presidency, and restore the integrity and independence of the executive and the judiciary. A pan-African leftist, he has also pledged to create a new national currency to replace the CFA franc and renegotiate oil and gas contracts with foreign companies. Faye's biggest hurdle will be creating enough jobs in a nation where the combined rate of unemployment and underemployment is around 30% and the median age of the roughly 19 million population is 18. Already, however, he has made his name as the tax inspector who successfully defended Senegal's democratic institutions.
Thank you so much. That is Prominent Faces, and very interesting Kagi today, focusing on featuring Basiru Jumofai, a fairly young leader, president.
Very young indeed.
Yes.
In a region whereby it is known for electing fairly old guards in the system, but he comes in there is a very, very interesting.
So does it mean that the Gen Zs of Senegal have something in common with the Gen Zs of Kenya?
I think they do. But remember that these things don't just happen. I mean, if you look at what is happening in Kenya today, it is highly influencing Uganda today.
So by then they've said something about what is happening in Kenya.
Because they've already started to call the uprising in referencing Kenya. If you go to Tanzania the other day, they had an issue and the traders were protesting and they were pinning their protest as a guide from Kenya. You know, like Kenyans really stood up and they demanded for this, so we can do that. So even what happened, like Kenya, learned from Senegal and Ghana. And in, not Ghana, it's called Niger or something. And those guys, in as much as there was a coup, and we had this captain, is it captain or major? Captain, take over. I mean, looking at what he's called for his country and what he has done in the few months or years that he has been in the limelight, and it confirms that we can actually do it. Understanding that the society is why you're there. You're there because of that society. So uplifting their lives is good. I mean, it's the best thing you can do. I mean, we saw the guy invested, I don't know in how many tractors. He got fertilizers for them. He got, all those things that they require as inputs to ensure that they go into production.
Burkina Faso.
Yes. Yeah. And you see, it's bringing back the memories of Sankara. Thomas Sankara.
Sure.
And how much Thomas Sankara managed to achieve within a span of 4 years is something we discuss till today. But our presidency here goes for 5 years, 10 years. What do we talk after they've left?
Okay.
So I'm excited about what is happening in the region. I'm excited about what is coming, and I think there is more goodies for us.
Yeah. So the influence can actually just even go beyond the borders.
It will. It will. Give it time and see what happens in Uganda, even in Somalia. I mean, the moment people realize that they have the power and they can change much, Somalia might just change to be another country that we never thought about.
Wow.
Because now the people take it and say, Allah.
Even in US, during Obama's time, he was around, I think, 40-something years when he became president. He was relatively young like this guy. But he was a very successful US president.
Because he has proper backing.
Even today.
Yes, he's still very influential.
Yes.
So, engineer, in terms of now mentoring the youth, and even maybe from what we've witnessed, what do you think needs to be put into consideration even as we try? Because I know now this is a conversation that will go up to 2027.
I think, number one, since that time of Kibaki, I think we have seen young people getting absorbed in the system. I mean, I will not say that they've been denied opportunities. I think the young is well, represented in the various sectors. We have leaders in particular sectors that are making a big difference.
And actually, even as you speak about that, maybe the few that we've seen, maybe even in different elective positions, be it in parliament, be it in senate, ward reps, and so on and so forth, there's also been that particular complaint that maybe not so much has been seen from them, and there are also all those also complaining that some of them have been absorbed
by the system.
The bad system.
And I think I agree that they have been absorbed, and it's for obvious reasons. For example, if the time has come, for sure, not if, I think the time has come for the government to be very specific and very particular in having the Gen Z now in the Senate and in Parliament, for example, starting point. And we've seen, is it Bomet, that they had a very young girl nominated elected as their women rep. Yes, and at times you see the government losing it, not understanding that the times have changed, that they go ahead and nominate older leaders or older, people who are previous MPs who lost. Really, I think it's time that we become very deliberate in nominating young people in office. Why? Because you go ahead to equip them in understanding management and leadership. But if you look at a government that fails to understand that and goes ahead to nominate old people, I mean, we've seen at some point, we were even complaining, even under Uhuru time, where we would see like he would depend more on old guards for positions, and the young would complain and say, really? You can't see us? We are equally...
Must be one of the things that is really angering them.
You get. So now you realize, if they don't do that, what do? You have to get to a point, you go take it by force. Because they're not listening. So time has come to realize, even these nominations, all of them should be given to the young. Let them go in there. Because if you don't nominate the young, then you nominate the old. The few that the young have elected, which will be maybe 5 maximum, against the 390-something of the older generation, the system or the status quo remains. So in as much as Babu Owino as a young man would want something done different, his voice against 300 would not be heard. Now again, remember, when you elect or nominate young people in parliament, they don't go into limelight. In fact, the debate does not give them chances until everybody else has left. Because really, who are you? You have no experience. So the people with the experience will have the opportunity to talk to, yes, Speaker, Your Honor, this is me speaking as the old guard, understanding these dynamics and knowing what is that. So they have the authority over the young. But if you nominate these people and give them this experience over and over again, you equip them and people feel comfortable that we have representation.
And actually now they want to do it because now there is a fear that the older generation, albeit most of them are one that have really been compromised. So these Gen Zs, this young generation that we want also to trust them and to entrust them with these particular positions, where do they borrow a leaf from?
Well, they don't need to borrow a leaf from the old that has messed up. And I can guarantee you they're not borrowing a leaf even now when they're protesting. They're standing, I told you they are independent-minded. Wow. These guys are not with you. They are standing alone. You're a police officer, you're coming with a rifle and with a button and I don't know what, and you're trying to threaten the guy and he doesn't move. He knows you can hit him. So I'm talking about a person who's so independent with his line. Yes. We saw another guy who was...
So are we saying that for them, it's like wherever they are, at the stage they are in, they already know what needs to be done and how it needs to be done.
And they agree with the Constitution. That's one thing that it makes me very happy. These people agree with the Constitution, meaning they've understood it. And they are seeing a scenario where you are failing as a leader to understand the Constitution. They are failing to understand why are you sending police against us to a point of unleashing the Kenyan military against us, against the Constitution. You see, they're not defending themselves with their mother or father. They're using the Constitution, which you should use to determine whether you should unleash the military.
And Mr. Ngatia, as you speak about that, I'm trying to reason about being swallowed by the system, which you're saying it is not possible. I know that we have young people in the government, whether in political class, in parliament or senate, and also in the corporations. Do you have a crop of young people that we can say by today that we have young people in positions, whether it is political or our institutions, who are good examples to the young generation? When they go there, yes, these ones stand to be a case study that we can do it.
I think that's, you're borrowing a narrative from the old, which they have played over and over again. If you listen at an old politician campaigning, they will ask, "Huyu ni nani? Amewafanyia nini?" You get? It's a similar analogy, so that they confirm that the young have no position.
Yes.
They have nothing they can do for you. Okay? But now let's reverse that and ask, this young person who has no example, who has no experience, comes and challenges you on the Constitution that you're supposed to be making.
Okay.
Now he tells you about the fact that you are trying to bring CASs that they're not in the Constitution. Do I need to have borrowed from you to be able to question you that? No. You are doing an illegality.
Yeah.
I am telling you, I am better placed because I understand this is wrong and I will not allow it. You are allowing it. Now, we don't need people who on the ground have actually been MPs to become MPs. We just need people who have the wisdom, and the young leaders are showing us that they have the wisdom, that this is wrong and it should not be done, and they're ready to push for it. You get what I mean? So this analogy of we want examples, what have they done in parliament? We've seen likes of so and so who's gone to parliament nowadays is like them. Why would he fail to be like one of them? Because listen, if I have ways of making sure you leave this house, why wouldn't you toe the line? I mean, we have political parties. If you don't toe, like today, we have the opposition, the ODM has said that we have 6 MPs who went contrary and voted yes, and we are going to get rid of them. So that leader, give me the wisdom in that leader who decided to go against the stand of his political party, and the political party can whip you out. Where is the wisdom? The wisdom is lost. So telling me that we need people who have done that, they're not there. But if the platform allows you to exercise your rightful role, you will do it right. Is it news that you know about envelopes that moved around before the vote was taken? Is it news that was 2 million inducement to vote yes? Is it news? No, it's not. We have MPs who've come out and said, this is what we are getting. You get. So if you have leaders who are being induced to go against their thinking, against their locals, is that somebody you'd want to say, this is the person I want to re-elect? No. So we have leaders outside here. You'll be amazed if today, for example, we have that guy in Senegal we just watched. So what will you tell me he's been doing before he became president to qualify him to be the president?
Not much.
You get? So we cannot use that as an analogy to judge whether Gen Z can make president. The other day we had a president who was sworn in and he was a former DJ. I think, where was it?
Madagascar. Rajoelina.
No. He had never become a president, leave alone becoming a tax collector, you know, or working with KRA or whatever revenue institution. It's just that time has come that these people have the wisdom that they will challenge and ensure what we put in place to ensure they are safe is implemented, which is the constitution.
Yes, I was talking to a group of people. And one of the things I was joking around was that one day this country will be led by Amsani.
Yes.
Yeah, it will happen. Yeah. Okay.
On the Msani aspect, and why they came in, and you realize there's a time we were voting this Wasani, and it's because they were in a position to oil the campaign. You get? And if you look at the many young people who made it to office, it's only those who had managed to either get a backing from the old so that they could be able to play the same game with oiling people's hands. But now we are moving from that. We are looking for quality leadership. We want people who will stand with the people. We want people who do things right, not because it is right for somebody else. It is right for the society and for this country, Kenya. Wow. We are looking at leaders who will stand up and do their roles in office. If you've been elected as an MP, what are your roles? We don't want leaders who will go there to contradict their roles so that they can just get money out of the system for their own self-benefits. Wow. Like the CDF. This crop of leaders has pushed it and made it a responsibility of a member of parliament to run a CDF kitty. It's not their business. The role in the constitution says it is oversight. You need to be able to question with authority and to get answers. But when it's you doing the project, who will question you? And who will you question? You can't. You can't. So we have the young people who have understood this and they want to bring that change even in parliament. A parliament is not sober. It's not sober at all.
Engineer, one of the things that has come out, and majority of Kenyans have noted, even during these demonstrations and these protests, is a high rate of unemployment. Of course, majority of those are arguing that majority of the youth that have been seen on the streets are the ones that really don't have a job. And it's like this particular issue is becoming a time bomb in this particular country.
It has exploded.
Where are we getting it wrong?
It has exploded.
Needs to be done?
It has exploded, and it was a time bomb 10 years ago, but we did not change. We kept on ensuring that we lose more and more jobs. When this government came into position, into office, we have seen how many other companies have folded and left the country due to the tax regime. It's there. Okay? So we have failed to listen, and now the bomb has exploded. Now, there's no going back. Because if these people are going to remain jobless, if you listen to some guy who was standing with the police and was telling him, you have a salary. Me, I don't. You're sending me home. Who will pay me? That cop walked away. If you saw that clip, that policeman walked away with his gun, with his baton, and left that man there on the street. Why? Because of you become embarrassed of what you're doing as a police officer.
So what will it take? Is it another conversation?
There's no conversation. I mean, it is already there. You people, we need 1, 2, 3. And once the demand were placed, and this is why I call the wisdom of the president into check now, you already have a list of demands. Diverting this discussion further will only make it difficult for you to handle it. Because on the very day that this came out, we expected the president to come out and say, listen guys, I've heard you. Everything you've put there is constitutional. It's only 1 or 2 things I'll get rid of, I will not be able to attend to maybe, because they are not constitutional. That's what you say, because that's wisdom. The people will have gone home that evening. But what do? You come and rebuttal. So they come back out again. Now you are escalating a simple matter into something else. Now we are told that there were goons that were hired, and we can tell from the areas that we come from who was hiring them to come out and mess this. Now when you mess, you saw it escalated to a point of them breaking into parliament. Now you've brought goons to mess this this protest, I don't know, it gets confusing. So you get lost in how to handle it. It escalates to another level. So you have to kill people, you'll have to injure people. So we are not just discussing the issues that we tabled, we're now discussing blood. Why did we have to lose blood? So it escalates to something else. So yesterday we saw what it went to, and now we are discussing something else contrary to what we started with. So we are not handling it with the wisdom that it requires. So if you fail and keep on failing, then we are drawing nearer and nearer to anarchy.
But also the issue of unemployment, because that is the key thing here. Because the reason why most young people are out, number one, is the issue of unemployment, which we have just elaborated here. I try to reason with myself, maybe Mr. Ngatia, what is this that we should do as a nation to arrest this situation of unemployment? Because that is the bone of contention.
Number one, higher taxation does not attract investors. So what tells you in your wisdom that more taxes will attract investors?
And investors are the ones who bring employment.
Yes, you get. It is not the government's business to create employment. It is not. So let's not, because they keep on confusing us when they speak to us. It's as if it's their responsibility to set up a factory in Nakuru to employ these people.
Them is the environment.
Them is the environment, period. So you need to ensure that the taxation is in order, so that when I look at, if I come in, I'll come in with $1 billion. For the next 4 years or 5 years, I need to exit. At the time of exiting, how much will I have made? So he'll have made his 20 or 30% profit. That's as an investor. So what do you need to do to ensure that he sees this as an opportunity? He needs to be able to know that he can pay well. In America, when they're paying $20 an hour, here, if he can pay $12 an hour, it's still very conducive for him. But when you pay somebody in Kenya $12 an hour, it's equivalent to $1,500. Who would not want $1,500 per hour in Kenya?
Beautiful.
So for them, they have saved. So they will come. But you want to tax him more. He says, no, when you're taxing, out of my 30% profit, you will take 20%. So I'll make 10%. I will not come there. It goes to Ethiopia.
Goes to Ethiopia.
You get? Secondly, we have power. The main factors of production includes power. Power form is a big chunk. So how cheap is power in Kenya? Electricity. So if I go to Kenya, I'll pay this amount for this number of units. But if I go to a place like Ethiopia, I'll pay 30% of what I pay in Kenya. Where will I go?
Ethiopia.
I'll go to Ethiopia. So you're still trying to tell us we cannot create employment, but we're working on it. Tumeweka manyumba tunajenga, so kuna pesa za mjengo. The youth are not stupid. The bigger picture is ensuring that the environment is fit for investment.
Thank you so much, Engineer. You're pressed for time, but of course, very, very interesting and very, very beneficial conversation that you're having here on youth and leadership. We want to look at that segment that we also have for you in this particular show, that is Know Your Constituency. I think my director is ready to give us that constituency. And today, Kagi, I'm taking you to a constituency. Actually, this is my home constituency, Kagi.
Oh, yeah?
If you've never known. I think you will also share with me your constituency.
Laikipia constituency.
Yes. It's actually supposed to be Laikipia West constituency. Laikipia West constituency is an electoral constituency in Kenya, and first established for the 1966 elections. The current MP is Hon Patrick Mariro. That is the current member of parliament for Laikipia West constituency. Some previous MPs, 1966, very famous name there, Gigi Karaoke. 69, Gigi Karaoke. 74, Gigi Karaoke. 79, Gigi Karaoke. 83, Joseph Githai Madhenge. 88, Danson Dumia Morokia. 1992, Dixon Kimani Kuria. 1997, F. Shegembitiro. 2002, coming back again, Gigi Karaoke. 2007, Derito Moreithi. 2013, Washira Karani. 2017, Patrick Mariro. And of course, still the incumbent after the 2022 general election. We can have a look at the wards that we find in Laikipia County, quite a number. You have Kiganda, Maina, Ndonyo, Uwaso, Narok, Kayam, Lorian, Manyata, Melwa, Getwamba, Igwamiti, Kinamba, Muhotetu, Mutara, Mudhengera, Olmoran, Salama, and of course also Sipili. Those are the wards in Laikipia West constituency. The main economic activity there being agriculture, of course chiefly grain crops, and you also have tourism as a major economic activity in the Laikipia West constituency.
Many wards, I don't know why. The wards are too many.
Vast.
Huh?
It's vast.
It's vast. That's
It's a very vast country. Yes.
Oh, yeah. But you know, again, when it's a dry area, there are areas that are dry. I think that would actually be very vast.
Yes, yes.
But when you go to highlands, they're not very vast. This is Zingine.
Yeah, they are very vast. Gigi Karuka has been there for 5 terms as a member of parliament.
He's done 25 years.
Yes.
Service.
I
but it's a
believe
name that we've heard over and over again. A number of things that he did. And you know, that time he was not dealing with like a small constituency like this on Nakuru town.
It was very much bigger.
Yeah. Just imagine being an MP in a span of 4 presidents. From Jomo Kenyatta,
Moi.
He served in each.
Moi Kibaki, and Uhuru Kenyatta.
I hope he has left a good landmark there.
Well,
development landmark.
I would say so, but see again, what kind of development was big then?
Oh.
Now, for you to make a big mark, you must do something because we've developed.
True.
But by then, a small thing, building, imagine if you build something like a police station back in the year, a proper one like the one we have today, that would be something else.
Very true.
Even a fence, it would have been something.
Fencing a school.
Yes. It was huge.
With a barbed wire. It would
be a major thing. And now we can have our leadership quote for today, just before we bring this to a close. Our leadership quote for today, and it goes like this: a well-informed citizenry is the best defense against tyranny. A well-informed citizenry is the best defense against tyranny. And this is by former U.S. President, the late Thomas Jefferson. A well-informed citizenry is the best defense against tyranny. Engineer, does it go with our discussion?
Yes. I mean, we are already seeing tyrannic tendencies.
Yes.
And when I was starting, I remember I told the youth, you are very forceful, you're doing everything right. But when rubber meets the road, it will come to, do you have a voting card? I mean, there will be no sideshows.
Yes.
Because we are not going to be violent in this country.
Yeah.
If at the end of the day we still need to maintain what you're calling the constitution of this country, get yourself a voter's card.
Again, elsewhere they say,
vote wisely.
Yeah. Elsewhere they say that information is power.
It's power.
Information is power.
Yeah.
And you're likely to see this going ahead.
Not likely. It is going on. I mean, look at this.
Just in 30 seconds, because
if you look at what is happening, let me just try and be quick on it. If you look at what is happening with the old kind of system of management and running this government, it's a fact that we don't have a properly running IEBC today. But why does that not disturb anybody in parliament who's been elected to ensure this happens? You know, because they want to have a status that will not allow them out. Okay? So that's the leadership we have. And if it's going to push for violence now to ensure that these guys come out, then the youth might actually end up thinking that way. But it is only wise that they sit down and quickly now realize, you know what? We can do this in the next 2-3 weeks.
Wow.
Let's get an IBC in place. Because people are going to be recalled.
You mean?
People are going to be recalled from this house.
Yes.
Now, they do not want an institution to allow them to be recalled. And you know, if it is going to escalate to another level, it will, to ensure that that is done. So if they are wise, they better do it proper. So that we do not have a scenario where our constitution is.
Engineer Victor Ngatia, governance analyst, we really appreciate your contribution and your time for us in this Leadership Wednesday edition for today. And you're looking forward for better days.
Yes, sir.
That's how we bring it to a close. And we also appreciate you for your time, for your contribution, and also for paying us company. Of course, we always say that it falls and rises on leadership. You have a part to play, I have a part to play. Let's ensure we come together to make our country better. My name is Mangicho Mola. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
And thank you for being with us in today's program. On Friday, God willing, I'll be back again with many matters. Enjoy your day ahead.